The inheritance competition that tore my family apart. You know how some families have a black sheep? Well, in my family, my parents decided to create 3 of them. And they did it on purpose. I'm talking about the night they sat us all down and announced a competition. Not a fun family game night kind of competition. No, this was a brutal years-long battle where only one of us would inherit everything, and the rest would be completely cut off. Forever. I was 16 when this nightmare began. Let me tell you exactly how it went down. The announcement. It was a Tuesday evening in October. Dad called us into the living room with this weird formal tone that immediately put me on edge. My twin brother Ethan and I exchanged glances as we sat down on the couch. Our older sister Maya was already there, checking her phone. Little brother Tyler bounded in asking if we were getting pizza for dinner. Dad stood by the fireplace like he was about to give a TED Talk. Mom sat in her usual armchair, and I noticed she had this leather-bound notebook on her lap. She'd always been organized, always taking notes about everything, but something felt different this time. "We need to discuss your futures," Dad began. His hands were clasped behind his back. Very corporate. Very cold. Mom opened her notebook. "Your father and I have been doing a lot of thinking about our estate planning." I remember Maya perking up at this. She was 18 and had just gotten into her dream school. Very expensive dream school. Then Dad dropped the bomb. "We've invested significant resources in raising 4 children. Time, money, energy. But we've realized this approach isn't sustainable or fair." I didn't understand what he meant. Not yet. So we've decided to focus all our resources on one child. The one who proves they deserve it. The room went completely silent. Even Tyler stopped fidgeting. "The rest of you will be removed from our will and cut off financially when you turn 18. I actually laughed. I thought he was joking. Some weird life lesson setup where he'd reveal the punchline and we'd all learn something about working hard or whatever. But nobody else was laughing. Maya's face had gone white. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "It's quite simple," Mom said, flipping through her notebook. "We're implementing a ranking system. You'll each be scored on academics, extracurriculars, leadership, and life skills. Rankings will be updated monthly. The child who consistently ranks first will receive our full support. The others will receive the legal minimum until you're 18, at which point you'll be on your own." Tyler, who was only 12, raised his hand like he was in class. "Is this like a game show? When do we find out who wins?" "This isn't a game, Tyler," Dad said sharply. "This is about proving your worth." Ethan finally spoke up beside me. "And what if we don't want to participate?" Dad's expression went ice cold. Genuinely scary. "You're already participating whether you like it or not. You live under my roof, eat my food, use my resources. Those come with expectations now." Mom turned her notebook around to show us. "I've already calculated your first month's rankings using data from the past year." I still remember seeing those numbers. Maya, 92. Me, Jordan, 83. Ethan, 67. Tyler, 60. "How did you even?" I started, but Mom cut me off. "Academics account for 35%, extracurricular 30%, household contributions 15%, and character evaluation 20%. I've been tracking everything." Everything. She'd been tracking everything we did for a year without telling us, building profiles, preparing for this moment. Maya found her voice. "But you promised to pay for Wellesley. We already put down the deposit." "That was before we implemented the system," Dad said. "Your ranking is strong, Maya. Keep it up and your education will be fully funded. Falter and well, there are state schools." After they went upstairs, the 4 of us sat in Maya's room in complete shock. She was pacing back and forth, practically vibrating with panic and anger. "This is insane," she kept saying. "This is actually insane." Tyler was crying quietly in the corner. Why would they do this? Did we do something wrong? Ethan sat against the wall, staring at nothing. I'd never seen him look so defeated. I tried to be rational. What if we all just refuse? Don't compete, stick together, show them this doesn't work. Maya whirled on me. Are you kidding? If the rest of you don't compete, I win by default. You'd all be out and I'd be the only one left. So you're actually considering this? I couldn't believe it. Jordan, I have to. I'm 18 in 3 months. If my ranking drops, I lose Wellesley. I lose everything. Ethan spoke quietly from his corner. Even if we refuse to compete, Mom will just mark us down in the character evaluation section. We're damned either way. And that's when I realized the trap. They'd designed it so there was no way out. Compete and destroy each other, or refuse and be destroyed anyway. The first month. The rankings went up on the refrigerator the next morning. Color-coded. Maya's name in green at the top. Mine in blue. Ethan's in yellow. Tyler's in red at the bottom. It changed everything immediately. Maya stopped helping Tyler with his maths homework. Why would she? Improving his grades might lower her ranking. Ethan started staying up until 2 in the morning working on extra credit. I caught myself checking on what my siblings were doing constantly, calculating whether I was falling behind. Our allowances changed too. Maya got $220. I got $120. Ethan got $60. Tyler got $25. Tyler had been getting $60 before. Why did mine go down? He asked at dinner. Limited resources need to be allocated to the children showing the most promise, Dad said, cutting his steak. Tyler looked like he'd been slapped. School became a war zone. Maya and I were both juniors, so every test, every assignment, every participation point became ammunition. When she got a 95 on our history exam and I got a 91, she actually smiled. I saw her mentally calculating how it would affect the monthly rankings. When I made the debate team and she didn't speak to me the entire car ride home. The character evaluation category was the worst part. Completely subjective. Mom could deduct points for anything. Ethan lost 5 points for questioning authority when he asked Dad if the competition was fair. I lost 3 points for forgetting to take out the trash. Tyler lost points for leaving his backpack in the hallway, talking too loud at dinner, watching too much TV. Normal 12-year-old stuff became failures in Mom's scoring system. Maya figured out the game quickly. She became this perfect plastic version of herself. Always cheerful, always helpful, always saying exactly what Mom and Dad wanted to hear. Her boyfriend broke up with her after 2 months because she'd become obsessed, and not the person I started dating. She didn't even seem upset. More time to focus on my ranking, she said. I watched my sister transform into someone I barely recognized. The breaking point begins. 3 months in, Ethan started having panic attacks at night. I'd hear him hyperventilating in the bathroom, and I'd sit outside the door talking him through breathing exercises until he calmed down. He was terrified of coming in last. Mom and Dad had made it crystal clear. Last place gets nothing. No college fund, no family connection, no help after 18. Ethan had 2 more years until he aged out, and the thought of being homeless and completely alone at 18 was eating him alive. I'll never let that happen, I told him one night. We stick together no matter what the rankings say. But we both knew I couldn't actually protect him. I was just another kid trapped in the same system. The household contributions category turned our home into this dystopian competition of chores. Maya started waking up at 5 in the morning to clean the kitchen before anyone else could get points for it. I started doing yard work nobody asked for just to score extra points. Ethan took over all of Tyler's assigned chores because Tyler was too young to meet Mom's standards. Mom kept a detailed log of everything. She'd time how long each task took. She'd inspect the bathroom after someone cleaned it and deduct points if she found a single hair in the sink. The house had never been cleaner. It had also never felt less like a home. 6 months in, Tyler started wetting the bed again. Something he hadn't done since he was 7. The pressure of being in last place every single month, of seeing the disappointment on our parents' faces, it was destroying him. I found him crying in the garage one afternoon. I wish I was never born, he said. Then Mom and Dad wouldn't have to be disappointed in me. Something broke inside me when he said that. I stormed into my parents' bedroom. "You need to stop this. Look what you're doing to Tyler." Dad listened with zero emotion on his face. Then he said, "Tyler needs to learn that life is competitive. If he can't handle pressure now, he'll never survive in the real world." "He's 12. "Exactly. Better to learn young." Mom added, "We're actually helping him, Jordan. Building resilience." I wanted to scream. They genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. 1 year in, the extracurricular category added another layer of hell. Maya joined every club she could physically fit into her schedule. Student government, debate, Model UN, 3 volunteer organizations. She was spreading herself so thin she was exhausted all the time. But her resume looked incredible. I focused on leadership positions in fewer activities. President of the debate team, captain of the academic quiz bowl. Quality over quantity. Ethan struggled because his real interests, art and music, didn't score well. Mom gave minimal points for his art portfolio but maximum scores for science competitions. So he abandoned what he loved to chase points in subjects he hated. Tyler tried joining sports teams. He got cut from every single one. He was small for his age, not particularly athletic, and every rejection felt like more proof that he was the family failure. Mom's scoring system only counted measurable outcomes. Awards, leadership positions, rankings. Effort and improvement meant nothing. Then came the summer program incident. Maya got accepted into this prestigious Yale summer program. 6 weeks, $10,000. It would boost her ranking significantly and look amazing on college applications. At dinner, Dad made an announcement. "If Maya goes to Yale, there won't be enough budget for the rest of you to do any summer activities. So I'm putting it to a vote. One child gets an exceptional program, or everyone gets basic summer activities." Maya voted for Yale immediately. Investment should go to the most successful child. Tyler voted for fair distribution. He'd been looking forward to soccer camp all year. Ethan and I were stuck in the middle. Either way, someone got hurt. I voted for fair distribution. I couldn't stand the thought of Tyler losing his one thing. Ethan voted the same way. Dad looked disappointed in all of us except Maya. Here's what actually happened that summer. None of us got what we wanted. Dad said we'd failed the lesson by not making a decisive choice. Maya didn't go to Yale. Tyler didn't go to soccer camp. Ethan didn't get his art intensive. I didn't get my debate institute. Instead, we all stayed home doing extra chores while Mom and Dad lectured us about the cost of indecision. That's when I understood. This wasn't about finding the most successful child. It was about training us to sacrifice each other, to prioritize individual success over family loyalty, to accept that someone had to suffer for anyone to succeed. We'd failed by trying to stick together, and they punished us for it. The descent. Ethan's mental health collapsed that summer. He stopped eating regularly, lost so much weight his clothes hung off him. He quit doing art entirely, the one thing that used to make him happy. He just stayed in his room studying subjects he hated, desperately trying to raise his ranking. When I'd ask how he was doing, he'd say fine in this flat, dead voice that meant the opposite. I tried telling Mom and Dad something was seriously wrong. They dismissed it as competitive jealousy and manipulation tactics. "Ethan is just feeling normal stress from not meeting expectations," Mom said. "He needs to work harder, not seek sympathy." The rankings kept getting more arbitrary. When my grades started surpassing Maya's, Mom suddenly increased the weight of the character evaluation category. Convenient. When Ethan briefly passed me in extracurricular points, the formula shifted to prioritize leadership over participation. It became obvious that Mom had already decided Maya would win. The ranking system was just theater to make it look fair. But we couldn't prove it was rigged without seeing her actual formula, which she kept locked in her office. Tyler started his 8th grade year acting out in ways that were completely unlike him. Fighting at school. Talking back to teachers. Not doing homework. His grades dropped from BS and CS to DS and FS. When Mom and Dad confronted him, he said, "What's the point? I did the math. Even if I got perfect scores in everything, I'd still be in last place. So why try?" Mom and Dad were furious. But I understood what Tyler was doing. He was opting out the only way he could by refusing to care about the metrics they used to judge him. Self-destructive, yes. But also the last bit of control he had. My school guidance counselor, Mr. Williams, called me in halfway through junior year. He'd noticed concerning patterns in my file. Excellent grades, but I dropped hobbies I used to love in favor of activities that clearly didn't interest me. "Is everything okay at home, Jordan?" For the first time, I thought about telling someone. But what would I even say? My parents aren't breaking any laws. They feed us, house us, don't physically hurt us. They're just running a competition to decide which kid deserves to stay in the family. How do you explain that to someone who doesn't live it? "Everything's fine," I said. "Just trying to strengthen my college apps." Mr. Williams looked at me with this sad expression, like he knew I was lying but couldn't make me tell the truth. That night, I went to check on Ethan. I found him sitting on his bed holding a bottle of Mom's sleeping pills. He'd taken 5. He was holding the bottle, deciding whether to take more. I grabbed the pills and shook him hard. "What are you doing?" "I can't do this anymore, Jordan. I can't wake up every day knowing I'm going to fail. I can't spend 2 more years trying to win a competition that's designed to destroy 3 out of 4 of us." I stayed in his room all night to make sure he didn't try anything else. In the morning, I went downstairs and told our parents what happened. Dad said Ethan was being manipulative and using suicide threats for sympathy. Mom deducted 10 character points for emotional instability. They didn't take him to a doctor. They didn't get him therapy. They didn't stop the competition. They just punished him for breaking under pressure they'd created. That's when I started documenting everything. I kept a journal hidden in my closet where I recorded the monthly rankings, the arbitrary formula changes, the impossible standards, the psychological damage I was witnessing. I didn't know what I'd do with it. I just knew I needed proof that we weren't crazy, that this was as insane as it felt. Maya found my journal one day snooping in my room. She read it and immediately attacked me, saying I was plotting to sabotage the family. "If you show that notebook to anyone outside this house, I'll tell Mom and Dad and you'll be punished," she threatened. "How can you justify this?" I asked her. "I'm protecting my future. I've worked too hard to let you ruin my chances of winning." She'd fully bought in. My sister was gone. The long-term damage. As the competition approached year 2, the psychological effects became impossible to ignore. Maya developed an eating disorder, controlling her food intake obsessively because it was the one thing she could control in her life. Tyler had been suspended from school twice for fighting and was seeing the school counselor weekly for anger management. Ethan stopped sleeping more than 4 hours a night and developed stress-related eczema on his arms. I found myself unable to enjoy anything anymore, always calculating whether an activity would help or hurt my ranking. We were all playing versions of ourselves that our parents had designed. Somewhere along the way, we'd lost who we really were. The summer before my senior year, Mom and Dad announced the rankings would continue through college. They'd pay full tuition for first place, half for second place, minimal help for third, and nothing for fourth. The competition would last another 4 years. We'd be trapped in this system until our early 20s. Maya was thrilled. First place meant complete financial independence. The rest of us realized we'd never escape our parents' control as long as they had financial leverage. I started researching scholarships and financial aid obsessively, preparing for the possibility of funding college entirely on my own. Ethan did the same. Tyler was only 13 and couldn't think that far ahead, but I could see the despair in his eyes as he realized this nightmare would define his entire adolescence. As my senior year started, the rankings were Maya, 90, me, 84, Ethan, 82, Tyler, 58. The gap between first and last place had grown to 32 points. Nearly impossible to close with only months until Maya turned 18. She'd essentially already won. But our parents kept running the competition anyway, emphasizing how important it was that each of us kept striving, competing, proving our worth. Tyler's final break. In December of my senior year, Tyler stopped going to school entirely. He'd get up, get dressed, leave the house with his backpack, and spend the day at the public library or walking around the city. He'd come home at the normal school end time so our parents wouldn't notice. He did this for 3 weeks before the school called home about his absences. The confrontation was brutal. Dad screamed at Tyler about wasting his potential. Mom dropped his ranking to 52 points, the lowest any of us had ever gotten. Tyler just stood there and took it, face blank, saying nothing. After Mom and Dad left, I asked him why he'd stopped going to school. It doesn't matter anymore. Nothing I do matters. So why bother trying? It matters to me, I said. He just walked away. That was my breaking point. I gathered my documentation journal, proof of the ranking changes, evidence of the psychological harm. And I made an appointment with a family therapist my school counselor recommended. Dr. Simmons listened for 2 hours without interrupting, taking notes in a way that reminded me terrifyingly of my mother. When I finished, she asked if I felt physically safe at home. I said yes. We weren't being hit, starved, anything like that. She asked if I felt emotionally safe. I had no answer. How do you measure emotional safety when you're constantly being evaluated and graded and told 3 out of 4 of you don't deserve to be in the family? Dr. Simmons said what my parents were doing was a form of psychological abuse called conditional love and favoritism abuse. It could cause lasting damage. She asked if I wanted her to report it to Child Protective Services. I sat there trying to decide. CPS investigations are messy and invasive. They don't always result in anything. We might end up in foster care, separated from each other, which could be worse than staying together under our parents' control. But if I didn't report, nothing would change. Tyler would keep falling apart. Ethan would keep contemplating those pills. Maya would keep starving herself. And I'd just escaped to college while my siblings suffered. Dr. Simmons said she was a mandated reporter. If she believed we were in danger, she had to report regardless of my wishes. Do you believe your siblings are in danger? She asked directly. I thought about Ethan with the pill bottle. Tyler's blank expression. Maya's hollow cheeks. Yes, I said. The CPS investigation started the following week. A caseworker named Patricia Okonkwo showed up at our house unannounced and insisted on speaking with each of us separately. Our parents were furious, demanding to know who reported them and what lies had been told. Patricia stayed calm and professional. I'm here to ensure your children's safety and well-being. She interviewed all 4 of us in separate rooms, asking about our home life, our relationship with our parents, our daily routines. I told her everything. Showed her my documentation journal. Explained the ranking system in detail. Maya defended our parents completely, insisting they were just pushing us to reach our full potential. Ethan and Tyler confirmed my story in varying levels of detail. Patricia spent 3 hours at our house, taking photos of the ranking charts on the refrigerator, requesting copies of Mom's scoring journals. My parents were smart. They presented the ranking system as strict but legal parenting. They pointed out that we were all fed, housed, clothed, educated, not physically abused. They framed the competition as a motivational framework, designed to teach us about real-world pressure. They showed Mom's meticulous records as evidence of involved parenting rather than psychological manipulation. Patricia talked to our teachers, our pediatrician, extended family members. Most of them said we seemed like high-achieving kids from a strict but successful household. The external appearance was so different from the internal reality that it was almost impossible to prove abuse was happening. Patricia told me privately that she believed my story, but she didn't have grounds to remove us from the home. The situation was harmful but not illegal. She'd recommend family therapy and would check in periodically, but she couldn't force our parents to stop the competition. After the CPS investigation closed without action, my parents' anger focused entirely on me. They knew I'd reported them, even though I hadn't admitted it outright. Mom dropped my ranking to 65 points, below Ethan for the first time, citing catastrophic failures in character evaluation. Dad told me I'd betrayed the family and shown exactly why I didn't deserve their support. Maya stopped speaking to me completely, like I'd personally attacked her by calling CPS. Only Ethan and Tyler understood why I'd done it, and they were too scared to defend me publicly. I'd sacrificed my place in the competition and probably my relationship with my parents to protect my siblings. And it had accomplished nothing. The rankings continued. The psychological warfare continued. We were still trapped. College acceptance letters started arriving in March. I got into 3 schools offering full scholarships. I could leave without depending on my parents for anything. Maya got into 7 prestigious schools. Our parents threw her a celebration party, announcing they'd pay full tuition and expenses wherever she chose. Ethan got into a state school with limited financial aid. Our parents agreed to cover 20% of his costs, leaving him to figure out the rest. Tyler was only 14, but watching the wildly different celebrations for each of our acceptances showed him exactly what his future would look like. Last place, barely acknowledged, left to fend for himself. I had one last conversation with Maya before leaving for college. Was winning worth it? I asked her. Worth losing your brothers? Watching Tyler fall apart? Watching Ethan almost kill himself? You're being dramatic, she said. Everyone's fine. We'll all thank Mom and Dad someday for pushing us to excel. Do you actually believe that, or are you just justifying your decision to participate in their abuse? You're just jealous and bitter about not winning. Maybe focus on your own life instead of trying to bring me down. We haven't spoken since that conversation. When I moved into my dorm in August, she didn't help me pack or say goodbye. Neither did our parents. Only Ethan and Tyler came to see me off. We all cried in the driveway because I was escaping. But they were still stuck in the nightmare. Life after college gave me physical distance from the competition, but I couldn't stop worrying about my brothers. Ethan sent me regular updates on the rankings, on Tyler's continued decline. Tyler had been diagnosed with depression and put on medication, but our parents saw it as another failure on his part. They docked him character points for requiring mental health intervention. Ethan counted down the days until he turned 18 and could legally leave. I sent money from my work-study job whenever I could, knowing he'd need help paying for college that our parents refused to fund. Patricia from CPS kept doing monthly check-ins, but nothing changed because nothing technically illegal was happening. Just 3 children being destroyed by a competition designed to convince them their value was conditional. I didn't go home the summer after my freshman year. I stayed at school to work and take summer classes. My parents sent an email saying they were disappointed in my choice, but not surprised given your character deficiencies. Maya posted pictures on social media from their family vacation without me. The 3 of them happy on some expensive beach. Tyler looked thin and miserable in the photos. Maya looked triumphant. Ethan looked like a ghost. The obvious winner posing with our parents like she'd earned her place through merit rather than survival. Ethan turned 18 in October of my sophomore year. He called me from a bus stop at 3 in the morning. I left, he said, packed a bag and walked out while everyone was sleeping. He was heading to his college town early to find housing and a job before school started. Our parents didn't try to stop him. Didn't even call. They just updated the rankings to show 2 children instead of 3, redistributing the percentages so Tyler sank even lower. Maya was still at the top with 90 points. I was second with 75, despite not having lived at home for almost a year. Tyler was last with 53 points. The competition continued even though half the competitors had already left. Tyler started calling me every night during my sophomore year. He'd talk about his day, his classes, or nothing in particular. I realized he just needed to hear a voice that cared about him as a person, not as a ranking. He was 14 and living basically alone with our parents and Maya, all of whom viewed him as the family failure. He told me they'd stopped inviting him to family dinners sometimes, telling him he could eat in his room since he wasn't contributing meaningfully to household conversations. He told me Maya had her own car now while he still took the bus everywhere. He told me his birthday had passed with just a card from our parents. No celebration. No gifts. He was being slowly erased from the family while still living in their house. And I was 300 miles away, unable to protect him. The real breaking point came during Tyler's freshman year of high school. He called me at midnight, crying so hard I couldn't understand him. When he finally calmed down enough to speak, he told me he'd found Mom's master planning document on her computer. A detailed timeline showing that after Maya graduated from college at 22, our parents would officially disown the rest of us. They'd already drafted legal documents to remove Ethan, Tyler, and me from their will. They'd written letters to extended family explaining why they were cutting off 3 of their 4 children. They'd calculated how much money they'd save by only investing in Maya. They'd been meticulously planning this for 3 years. The competition was just a way to make us complicit in our own elimination. Tyler read parts of the document to me over the phone. I felt physically sick hearing our parents describe us as poor investments and failed experiments. I drove home the next morning, skipping classes I couldn't afford to miss. Picked up Ethan from his college town on the way. We arrived at the house and demanded a family meeting. Our parents stayed calm as I confronted them with what Tyler had found. How could you do this to your own children? I asked. How could you deliberately destroy 3 kids while building up one? Dad said they'd given us plenty of opportunities to prove our worth, and we'd failed. It would be irresponsible to continue investing in children who haven't shown adequate return on that investment. Mom added that Maya had earned her place through dedication and excellence, while the rest of us had shown we didn't love the family enough to fight for it. Maya sat there silently, expression unreadable. Not defending us. Not defending them. I told my parents they'd abused 3 children through competitive manipulation and conditional love. I said I had 3 years of documentation proving the psychological damage they'd caused, and I was willing to take it to lawyers, therapists, and the media if they didn't stop immediately. Dad laughed. Said I had no legal standing, no proof of any criminal activity, no resources to challenge them. He was right about all of that. But I had something he didn't expect. I'd been recording the conversation on my phone since the moment we sat down. In that recording, they admitted to planning to disown 3 of their children based on a ranking system they'd manipulated for years. It might not have been illegal, but it was damning evidence of their true intentions. I played back the recording and watched my parents' faces change. I told them I wanted the competition ended immediately. I wanted Tyler's living conditions improved. I wanted them to agree to family therapy with an outside counselor. Or the recording would go to everyone we knew. Church community, extended family, their coworkers. I'd make sure everyone knew exactly what they'd done. It was blackmail. I'm not proud of it. But I had no other way to protect my little brother. My parents were silent for a long time. Finally, Dad agreed to my terms. The ranking charts came down that day. The monthly evaluations stopped. Tyler was given privacy and respect, things he'd been denied for years. We started family therapy the following week. But my parents spent most sessions trying to convince the therapist that they'd been misunderstood. That we were too sensitive. That they'd only been trying to help us succeed. The damage was already done. Maya graduated from college with full parental support and immediately cut off contact with me, Ethan, and Tyler. She'd internalized the message that we were failures who would drag her down. She chose our parents' approval over sibling relationships. I'd lost my older sister to the competition even though I'd technically won the final battle. Ethan took 6 years to finish college, working full-time to pay for it without parental help. Tyler is 16 now, living in a house where the competition has technically ended but the hierarchy and favoritism remain. He's counting down the days until he can leave for college and never come back. I graduated with debt from working 2 jobs and taking extra semesters to cover my own expenses while full scholarships don't cover everything. All 3 of us survived. But we're all damaged in ways that will probably last forever. 3 years after the competition officially ended, Patricia Okonkwo, the CPS caseworker who'd tried to help us, called me. She was writing a paper on long-term psychological abuse in high-achieving families and wanted permission to include our story anonymously. I agreed. Spent 2 hours on the phone explaining everything. She told me she'd seen dozens of cases like ours. Families where parents create elaborate systems to pit children against each other in the name of motivation. She said most cases go unreported because the abuse is subtle and sophisticated, hidden behind concepts like healthy competition and high standards. She was trying to create better frameworks for identifying and intervening in these situations. I gave her my documentation journal, the recording, and permission to use whatever she needed. If our suffering could prevent other families from going through the same thing, maybe it would mean something. Tyler left for college last year with a full scholarship to a school 1,500 miles away. He called me from his dorm room, crying with relief that he'd finally escaped. He's working with a trauma therapist, building an identity outside of rankings and competition. Ethan works in tech now and has cut off all contact with our parents. I talk to him once a week. We're rebuilding our brother relationship outside the competition context, learning to care about each other without evaluating our relative worth. It's strange and hard and healing. Maya emails me occasionally to justify why she chose our parents over us. I don't respond anymore. She made her choice. I've accepted the loss of that relationship. I'm 24 now, still in therapy, working through how the competition affected my self-worth and my ability to trust relationships. Dr. Simmons, the first therapist I talked to, helped me understand that I was always enough. That my worth isn't determined by rankings or parental approval or achievements measured and compared. That understanding comes and goes. Some days I believe it. Some days I still catch myself calculating whether I'm doing enough, achieving enough, proving enough. The competition may have ended, but its effects are permanent. My parents created a system that taught us we were only worthy of love if we outperformed each other. And that lesson is embedded deeply in how we see ourselves in the world. My parents still don't think they did anything wrong. In their minds, they pushed us to excel. We're all better off now. They don't acknowledge the eating disorder, the suicide attempt, the depression, the shattered family relationships. They don't take responsibility for designing a competition where 3 children had to lose for 1 to win. They still see Maya as the golden child and the rest of us as failures who didn't try hard enough. I've accepted that I'll never get an apology or acknowledgement from them. The best I can do is break the cycle. Live a life based on different values. Make sure I never put anyone else through what they put us through. And tell our story so maybe somewhere another family recognizes what's happening before it's too late. Because conditional love isn't love at all. It's just control dressed up as motivation. And no child should ever have to compete for their parents' affection. No one should have to prove they're worthy of being loved. That's our story. The inheritance competition that tore my family apart. If you're living something similar, please talk to someone. A school counselor, a therapist, a trusted adult. What's happening to you isn't normal, even if it's been normalized in your house. You deserve better. We all deserved better.